Hello everyone. Everything I'm going to say in this video is in the email that it came in, but I just thought I'd put it in this format too, just because I know it's a lot to read and a lot to take in, and sometimes it's just nice to put a face to the words and hear it in a different way, and hopefully feel some of the heart behind what the email says. I hope you are well. And as you'll be aware, the situation the last week has changed. Again, we've got to remind ourselves we're only 1 week into the year 2021 at this point, but it has changed again, and we're working through what that means for us. But the frustration that we often express around the changes and the implications of that right now are really being outweighed by the concern for people. For those who are struggling most because of what's happened, what's taking place, both on the medical side, those who are suffering, those who are sick, the lives and the sheer number of lives that are being lost. Our frustration pales in comparison to that. And also the implications for key workers, for teachers, for NHS staff, for carers, for those who are working and putting themselves at risk, and the toll that is taken. And I know I've spoken to many of you who are in that position. And you've shared how much of a struggle that is for parents trying to wrestle where how they teach, do they send children to nursery or not, and all the implications of that. That it just takes a toll, as well as those who don't have a label or a category that they fit in, but they're just becoming overwhelmed by what's happening and what's going on, and the implication of another 6 weeks or even longer of being in a lockdown as before. And so there's all that, and we're trying to process and factor that. And so for us as a church, what the current restrictions mean is that we are allowed to open as a place of worship. We're allowed to open. There is a possibility of gathering, and we recognise that there is something powerful and precious about being able to gather in person. Our physical online services, our online services have been a helpful substitute to continue to share God's word and hopefully guide and lead and encourage you. But we also recognise that as time goes on, that lack of real connection is just felt more and more and more, and is more and more needed. And so that's all. We absolutely believe that and long for that. We also were balancing that the fact we have permission to open with the circumstances. They have changed. They've changed suddenly. So the details haven't been worked out. We haven't been told what the implications are, the guidelines around meeting yet. So still waiting for that. We recognise the rate of infection in the country has rapidly increased, and in our area has rapidly increased. For many of us, it's no longer a number. There are names attached to these people. Who we know who have caught the virus and have been impacted by it, sometimes in heartbreaking ways. And also we recognise that the stories we're hearing from the NHS and those in those areas, that they're being overwhelmed, that there is a real crisis taking place, and this new strain that spreads more rapidly, and us having to be more vigilant because of that, and go back to old practices and also introduce new ones which will have an implication for our gatherings. So all of that's being in our thoughts. We also have, let's be positive as well, we have the idea that there is a vaccine on the horizon, that it is being rolled out by mid-February. Most of the most vulnerable people will be vaccinated, and that's an encouragement that we're looking forward to. Actually only a few weeks away, as long as things go well. And so having weighed all this up, we have decided for the meantime, for the next couple of weeks at least, that we will continue with our online services. And in a couple of weeks, what we're going to do is just pause and review again, look at the numbers, look at the situation, and take a decision then whether we can gather, whether we feel it's possible to gather physically. Once again, it just feels like we don't want to rush into it. We want to make sure the guidelines come out and we know what's happening, and just take stock, because it is a rapid change. It's a sudden change again, so we don't want to react. We want to respond, both in faith, expecting the best, but also in wisdom, preparing for anything else that might come. And so that's what we're going to do at the moment. We're just trying to seek the right balance. And that's tricky. We know there are positive and negative implications for whatever decision we make, and being comfortable with maybe there is no right. There's just in faith, trusting God and surrendered to Him. Here's what we believe to be the wisest decision. And so our gatherings will be online just for the next couple of weeks at least. But having said that, I do also want to just point back to my video earlier this week on kindness, and just say that although that part isn't there, I would still encourage you to seek being the church. And in particular, if you're someone who feels like you'd like to be able to do more and you're missing that fellowship, I would encourage you to take that and channel that desire, at least for the next few weeks, into something else, into blessing others. And my hope and my prayer in that is, as you channel that you will find a blessing and a reward that will make up for what we're missing in that physical meeting and that time together in worship. That you channel your worship into serving one another with acts of kindness and with the heart of God. Because the truth is that there are many things going on and places where you are needed. Places where I'm needed, of course, but where all of us have a role to play in this. In our church family, there are key workers. There are people who are increasingly more tired, exhausted, worn out. There are those who are isolated and are more and more lonely. There are those who don't fit into any category, who don't have this is who they are, but it's just that there is a toll, a burden that they're carrying. And I would urge you to consider how you may be able to encourage one another within the current guidelines, because I just think that's going to be the foundation. It won't work with just a few people. It takes all of us, the family, to be a source of strength to one another, to carry one another's burdens, which is what the Bible encourages us to do. And so I would encourage you to do that in this time. Next week we're planning our week of prayer, and tomorrow we'll put out some more information about that, about different meetings, prayer walks, and other ways of us uniting together and seeking God. And so look out for that, and that's another way just to be connected in a different way, I know, not the way that we prefer to be, but still making the most of every opportunity as we're called to do. We have our food share that's still going on. You can support that in prayer or in volunteering. I was told, Anne told me the other day, that we are getting more people than ever before. So there is a real need. These are people who aren't part of the church family. There are people who are just in need. Families who are coming and getting the provision and help and support that they are needed. And so that will be happening. And there may be people that you know that you can point towards it. One of the reasons there is more, not necessarily because there's more need, but more people are aware of it. And we believe there may still be more out there who are in need of this help and just don't know where to turn. And so that's still going on, as well as all the other ways that you are currently permitted, that there is no question about that you can do to increase fellowship, to be with one another, to stand side by side, go for walks with people, just to catch up and pray one-on-one. You can do that. You can make a call, you can send a card, you can give an encouragement. I know this has been happening. I just urge you just to continue. As we face this last push, hopefully this last lockdown, that's what we believe we're doing now, until the vaccination comes out and restrictions start to be lifted. And so let's not let up. Let's not grow tired, as the Bible says. Let's not grow tired of doing good, because we will reap a harvest as we press on and as we continue. I know for some of you this won't be the news you want to hear. I do thank you for your understanding and prayers. I am more than happy to talk through any of this and try and explain more our thinking if you want to. So please get in touch if you'd like to talk more, or even like to just go for a walk. I'd love to see someone and go for a walk one-on-one. I'm more than happy to do that. And it's not an easy or a light decision that we're making to postpone the meetings, but we hope that we can convey our love for you, our desire to only want to protect and do what we believe is right. And it's for 2 weeks before we review it again and then see where we go from there. And there is, I confess, there is a longing. There is a desire to be able to meet together without the restrictions and limitations. But until that time, just keep loving one another. Until we can hold firm to the hope that we have, the kingdom that we are a part of that is unshakable. Continue to seek God's face. Stand firm on His word. Give thanks for all that there is to give thanks for, and lean into the strength that His Spirit gives you. That His Spirit will equip you with and lift you up with and sustain you with. Because when we do that, we are placing ourselves in the best possible position to be his church, to live as his people, to shine his light and follow in his footsteps. It's not a sprint, it is a marathon. And this leg of the journey, we want to be able to look back and say, God, we don't know if we did everything right, but to the best of our ability, we were faithful. We remained faithful to you. And so that's our prayer. That's our heart. Thank you very much for listening. I do look forward to seeing you all as soon as possible. God bless. I'll speak to you soon.